In this lesson, we're going to look at the principle of structural modularity, which begins on page 26 of chapter 1. The principle of structural modularity states that a new media object retains its individuality when combined with other objects. This is only possible because the computer sees each structural element in a design as a distinct mathematical object or expression. To illustrate this principle, I included this illustration, figure 119, on page 28 of chapter 1. This is a composite graphic made up of 4 individual elements. The elements are numbered in the left panel as the sky, which is the background element, the sun is the second element, the house is the third element, and the happy person with arms lifted up is the fourth element. Each of these elements came into Photoshop as an individual object, were placed into the design window, and arranged to produce the composite image that you see. The principle of structural modularity is a powerful principle of digital media and new media because it allows you as the designer to preserve independent control over the constituent elements of a design. To see how this works, let's jump into Photoshop. So here we have our composite graphic already arranged. One of the fundamental principles of working in Photoshop, if you would, is the concept of layers. Within Photoshop, the program is set up to keep individual modular elements of the design on separate editable layers. This, I'll move this around so you can see it, is the layers panel. And this allows you to interact with objects that reside on individual editable layers. So for instance, I've got 4 layers over here in the layers panel corresponding to my 4 objects within the composite graphic. I can select the eyeball icon to the left of each of these layers to momentarily turn off a layer. So we can make the sky background disappear by turning it off. I can do the same with the sun, the house, and the person. I'm able to turn off each object and control it because of the principle of structural modularity. In the same way, I can move elements around by selecting the layer first. I'll select the layer with the happy person, and I'll come over, make sure I grab my move tool, pick up that element within the design, and move it and place it onto the top of the roof. It's as easy as that because this particular graphic is stored within the file as an object that has its own mathematical makeup. I can manipulate this, control it, move it around without affecting any of the other elements in the design. And we'll put that back for now. I can also change the visible attributes of any of these elements very quickly. This design was created primarily using a feature known as layer styles in Photoshop. And to apply a layer style, I just simply click on the layer to change it or to edit the style. I'm going to choose the house style, open up the layer styles property window. I'll put that up here. And on the left-hand side over here, you can see a number of different layer styles that are available to me. I can add a drop shadow, an inner shadow, etc. Well, the one that I know will make a huge difference right off the bat is I can turn on the gradient overlay, and I can change the house from this black sort of monochromatic design to something with a gradient pattern that mixes 2 colors in one. I can turn on the color overlay, go into the color overlay properties window, and in effect pick any other color that I want, and I can change it as well that quickly. Again, because it's a modular element and because of the principle of structural modularity, I have independent control over each element in the design. And we can do the same thing with the other objects. I can go to the sky background and the same thing. We can apply a color gradient to it, totally changing really the look of this design. The sky disappears and now we have this sort of grayscale gradient overlay in the background. Well, I don't really like that as much, so we're going to turn that off. Well, by now, hopefully you get the picture and you can see how the principle of structural modularity is a powerful principle of new media that helps you as the designer to maintain independent control over the objects in a design. The example we used was Photoshop, but this principle extends to video editing software, audio editing software, and so forth. Just about any type of multimedia program is going to give you the ability to independently affect, change, move, place the constituent objects within whatever content you happen to be working with.